Thank you for your enthusiastic response to Restoring Health Holistically. I would just like to make clear that I am not a medical practitioner. In order to heal my own illness over the past 17 years, I've become a holistic health author, educator, and an advocate. But this does not provide the depth of knowledge that's needed to treat illnesses. I research any illness I have, and then I make an appointment with a holistically trained practitioner to discuss a treatment plan. And this is a collaboration between you and your doctor. Western medicine primarily treats symptoms with drugs forever. I prefer to seek practitioners who are trained to treat the causes of illness so that I will get well. The titles that I look for are naturopathic doctor, or ND, functional MDs, orthomolecular doctors, chiropractic neurologists, and certified energy medicine practitioners. These TV shows are intended to raise consumer awareness of holistic treatments and explain how they work so that you can make informed decisions and find a practitioner to work with and get well. Thank you. Good evening. I'm Gracelyn, and welcome to Ask Gracelyn. This is the final show in this fall series, and I would like to, for those of you who are just tuning in, I'd like to introduce you to and say thanks to Lois Arias, who is my Facebook page manager and who has made possible this unique question and answer series between me and SEC TV viewers. Thanks to each of you who went to the Facebook site and submitted questions. They've been interesting and lots of fun, and I hope you've enjoyed the shows. Let's begin with tonight's lineup.
Okay, the first question actually is 3 questions about food cravings. First, how do you control carbohydrate cravings?
Okay. All of the cravings you control by addressing the cause. And that's the only way to really solve any ailment is, as you know, get to the cause and figure out what the cause is and then what you can do about it. Glucose is the main sugar that the body makes from food in our diet. And it's also, hypoglycemia is when your blood sugar is too low, and is the word for low blood sugar is hypoglycemic. Perpetually low blood sugar can be caused by a number of things. One is inherited traits, like a tendency to have diabetes in your family, or stress, or a junk food diet. That's probably the biggest cause, and eating, an overload of sweets, donuts, candy, cookies, ice cream, and white, simple carbohydrates like potatoes, pasta, pizza. All of those can really push up your blood sugar beyond what it should be. And this triggers a chain reaction in the body that I want to try to describe. I hope I can keep everybody with me for just a minute. But insulin is the hormone in the body that is used to transport blood sugar, the glucose from the blood into the cells, and that gives us energy. So, and in that process of transferring the sugar into the cells from the blood, it lowers the blood sugar, gradually bringing it down after a meal. Insulin is produced by the pancreas when you eat to carry blood sugar to fuel cells. When you eat way too much sugar, it may produce too much insulin, and then that causes too much blood sugar to be pulled out, leaving you low. And hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, brings low energy, depression, and very powerful cravings, because insulin is also the hunger hormone that triggers you to want to eat and restore your fuel for your cells. So it's One really strong indication of low blood sugar is if you find yourself standing in the kitchen having just devoured a whole bag of potato chips, cookies, or a carton of ice cream without really realizing it, standing there, not even sitting down. So this indicates that your body is really pushing you to get some food in there because your blood sugar is really low.
I actually was diagnosed with hypoglycemia, and I couldn't even do the full glucose tolerance test. But when I was hypoglycemic, my mother would bring me in a half a cantaloupe and cottage cheese and just hand it to me and leave the room. And as soon as I ate it, I was fine.
Well, I used to have hypoglycemia too, and when we traveled, my husband would keep M&Ms with peanuts in the glove compartment because when I got a blood sugar low, I literally started to shake and I became very grouchy very fast. And so that wasn't the good solution, but it was transportable and he felt it was a defensive move. Anyways, so when this drops too low and you stuff yourself quickly without thinking with whatever's at hand, then another cycle of blood sugar too high and then suddenly too low begins. And this is what is happening in cravings. And really for me, the cycles took about I'd eat something and then every 3 or 4 hours, if I didn't get something right away, I would really dive low and then go into depression or sometimes anxiety where I'd be really shaky and feel nervous. And that was all low blood sugar. Stress can also trigger this because when you're under stress, the body pumps in adrenaline when you're under any kind of threat or any kind of stress. And this can be stress from, say, you're in a car accident or you're under a deadline and you have to get someplace or do something right then. Or it can be stress from skipping meals because that puts stress on the body because your blood sugar is so low, it puts in adrenaline to raise it to a safer level. And what happens with this is that it contributes to type 2 diabetes because constant stress is keeping your body putting insulin in to counteract the blood sugar lows that are occurring and keeping your insulin levels high, perpetually high when you're always under stress. And so this contributes to type 2 diabetes and is why cells become sugar resistant or insulin resistant, they really call it, not sugar. And contributes to the epidemic of diabetes in the family. Some of it is inherited tendencies, some of it is the horrible diet that most Americans eat, and that we all overschedule and work under a lot of stress that's mostly self-induced. So all of those contribute to carbohydrate cravings. The other thing that happens is when insulin is carrying the sugar to the cells, it also carries fat. It carries fat into the cells for fuel, and this is how high insulin levels lead to gaining weight. So perpetually high insulin leads to gaining weight because it's carrying fat into the cells. Obesity then makes losing the weight more difficult because these fat cells release fatty acids that impair the production of insulin. So this is all a cycle that starts when you have, when you're not eating correctly or when you have inherited tendencies to have depression or cravings that nobody addresses the cause of, that you're just treating the symptoms perpetually, like by eating M&Ms with peanuts and not addressing the real cause. So that's how this all gets going.
Can I ask you, in holistic therapies, do they do the glucose tolerance test? Because if somebody has hypoglycemia, I couldn't do the whole test, as I said.
Neither could I. I couldn't tolerate it.
Yeah.
They try. I was tested so many years before I knew about holistic medicine that I don't know, because no holistic doctor that I've worked with ordered the test because I knew that I couldn't tolerate it. And I can't remember, it was 17 years ago, whether they actually even asked me about it, but I just knew I couldn't do it. And so we accepted the fact that I was hypoglycemic. So next.
The next question is, are carbohydrate cravings the same as alcohol cravings?
I can't say they're exactly the same, but they are both related to low blood sugar. That's what triggers them. 75 to 90% of alcoholics are hypoglycemic, meaning they have low blood sugar. And not surprisingly, 40% of them also have depression. And so that's what's driving their cravings. Simple sugars in the alcohol raise blood sugar levels, and it causes the same insulin response as any other sugars. So too low blood sugar also stokes the irritability, the anger, the aggressiveness, and often violence that accompanies alcoholism. So this is part of that cycle, is that the low blood sugar, and it could be, they could have, let me just use an example. One population that's noted for having a lot of alcoholism is the Irish. Now, I'm Scot-Irish, and that there are several inherited errors that are involved there. But one of them is low thyroid or thyroid resistance. And so low blood sugar and dysregulated blood sugar could be part of that inherited tendency, and that drives the alcoholism in certain populations. Sugary, refined foods produce a high that's similar to alcohol high. And fructose is the #1 source of calories in the US, primarily through corn syrup that's found as a sweetener in thousands of products, baked goods, sodas, everything you look at. Ketchup, I think, even has corn syrup in it. So many abstaining former alcoholics, when they try to stop, actually use cake, candy, sweets, caffeine, sodas to maintain this sugar high so that they don't slip into depression. But you can really only stop those cravings by either addressing your diet if that's clearly the cause, or working with a holistic practitioner to determine your individual causes and how to bring that into better balance.
And this ties into the next question of, can you turn off the cravings?
Yes. I have turned off those cravings, and it feels really good. And when I do get cravings, I know immediately what's caused them. I can look back at the previous few hours and see, oh yeah, I did that, and I wasn't very careful about that. But over time, once you start addressing it, your blood sugar levels get much more stable. I can now go 5 or 6 hours without eating, whereas before 4 hours was sort of the cutoff before. So what you need to do is reduce the sugars, the corn syrup, the fructose, the processed grains, and the white bread and carbs, pastas that you eat. Also take in the mineral chromium, which helps to balance blood sugars long term. Mm-hmm. You'll have to take it about 6 months before you really notice a big difference. 200 micrograms is in my daily multivitamin, so I get that much every day now, but I never had heard of it before I started working with a practitioner. And the other thing you want to do is eat complex carbohydrates that contain fiber, which is primarily vegetables. Eat a lot of vegetables. And also then eat good fats, because how this works is the fats slow down the metabolism of the carbs. So you don't get such a quick load into your bloodstream all at once. For instance, my sister, who's a type 2 diabetic, when she learned from testing her blood sugar, when she ate a baked potato, her blood sugar shot up as high as when she ate a candy bar. So you have to really be careful of the simple carbohydrates, even potatoes. And if you eat potatoes, eat the skins, because that's where all the nutrients are and where the fiber is. And put a little butter or put something with oil in it to slow down the metabolism of those simple carbs in your system, and it just will keep you from having your blood sugar shoot quite so high. Stress contributes to dysregulated blood sugar, and so when you're, what you want to do is examine your life and look at where you can reduce the stress. Some of us tend to overschedule ourselves. Do you know anyone like that?
I think I'm talking to her, and I might be that way myself.
So anyways, when that happens, you need to take a clear look at your life and try to change your habits. And sometimes you're successful at that, and then sometimes life happens and you're under stress again, and you just have to go with it. But perpetual emotional and physical stress cause people to gain weight. I gained 20 pounds when I opened my public relations agency that I could not lose, even though I ate healthy and I still exercised. It was that daily stress, and I didn't know it at the time. And I didn't lose that weight until I sold the agency. So it's very hard if you're running a small business and responsible for a lot of people's income to get rid of, to offload some of that stress. And so it takes more experience. I just sold the agency and managed to do it that way. How alcoholics might take a look at their cravings is exercise 30 minutes every day. A brisk walk is really all you need to do. You just want to get your blood and your oxygen circulating through your system better. And then take 3,000 milligrams of fish oils daily, 1,000 milligram with each meal, and eat 3 meals so that you're spacing out the intake of nutrients, and so your body doesn't run out of fuel and put in adrenaline that would trigger more cravings later on down the road. And also, everyone should get their vitamin D levels checked. Low vitamin D contributes to all sorts of illnesses because vitamin D is not just a vitamin, it's a hormone. And so it's really important to health, it's important to mental health, cardiac health, it's important to cancer, fighting cancer, and dealing with alcoholism and stress. So get your doctor to test it when you have an annual physical. It should reach 50 nanograms per milliliter or above to be healthy. 60% of Americans have very low vitamin D, so it contributes to some of the epidemics that we are experiencing.
The next question is, are there foods that you can eat to help prevent cancer?
Yes, there are lots of them. And the first book that I give friends when they're diagnosed with cancer is the textbook of Naturopathic Integrated Oncology by Jody Noe. This was based on 14 years of research and treating patients. Dr. Noe found the Integrative Oncology Department at Bridgeport University, which is a naturopathic training school where they can get a degree. And she can be reached at her private practice at Natural Family Health and Integrative Medicine in Pawcatuck, Connecticut. Her book is an amazing resource. It explains cancer basics. It outlines naturopathic methods of treating that include the foods that fight cancer. The things that I was surprised is asparagus is a great cancer fighter. There are several varieties of mushrooms that really have elements that attack tumors and that boost the immune system. So those are some of the surprises I found in the book. She gives specific recommendations for treating 8 specific types of cancer in this book, and includes many case studies. So it's really a wonderful resource for anyone who is dealing with cancer. Even if you're doing chemo and radiation, it has things in the book that you can use to help offset the side effects of chemo and radiation. And they are so toxic to the body, it's often a race to see what dies first, the cancer cells or the healthy cells. So you really, after you do chemo and radiation, you really want to do detoxification to clean up your system and get all the toxins, even though they may have helped you survive, to get them out of your system.
And how would you do that?
Well, there's different ways. You can detoxification for cancer patients. Probably the oldest treatment was the oldest one that's still in use. Put it that way, was doing colonics with coffee, green coffee, and what this does is it triggers the release of toxins into the liver for disposal, and it cleanses the liver so that when liver is a very hardworking organ, handling all toxic substances and changing it into things that are safe or that can be thrown off safely. And so with cancer, this type of detoxification is used often at the beginning every day for a little while. And it's widely used still in holistic cancer treatment. Detoxification is also, you can eat certain foods that help detox the body. Raw beets are great detoxifiers. Onions and garlic that have sulfur in them help to detoxify and boost the immune system, so they're really good. In my book, Who's Crazy Here, I have a section on detoxification, and it has the foods, it has the herbs, it has things that you can do for easy detox. One of the things that I frequently do is I take an Epsom salt bath. Fill the tub with hot water, put in Epsom salts, 2 cups of it if you've got a big tub and a deep tub, and then a cup of baking soda, and then sit in there until the water goes tepid, and it pulls the toxins out through your skin. Your skin is your largest organ of detox, of elimination. So it's an easy way to get some of the toxins out. We're taking in so many toxins every day, in the air, in our water.
In our food?
Yeah, 90% of our food is sprayed with pesticides, so unless you're eating all organic, you're getting a lot of toxins there too. So daily detoxification can be done through the choices of things that you eat, and then you can do additional things if you're fighting a cold or fighting cancer or fighting anything where you want to boost your immune system to help you get beyond it.
Are there other alternatives to cancer treatment?
Yes, there are many alternative cancer treatments, and there is a terrific website that is www.cancure.org, O-R-G, cancure.org. And it gives concise yet a very comprehensive list of alternative cancer therapies. And I printed it out, and it was roughly 9 to 10 pages. So it was fascinating. 75% of what was on there I was familiar with from all the reading that I've done over the last 20 years. But the website does a really good job of giving a brief description of the underlying science of that particular treatment, along with what is known about it and what is not known, if it's relatively new or not completely well researched yet. The fact that seems to be very well established when everything I read about cancer these days is that, and consumers are getting this message, high consumption of sugar, especially high blood sugar and fructose, feeds cancer cells. And so the fructose comes from fruits. So fresh fruits are rich in vitamins and minerals and antioxidants, and we've been told to be sure to eat them. But so eat them for prevention if you're doing okay, because they do contain really good phytonutrients. But if you have cancer, you may want to consider not eating the fruits because of the fructose impact on cancer cells, and getting your antioxidants through supplements, because you can take curcumin, which is a wonderful one for boosting the immune system, and with cancer, you can take alpha lipoic acid, you can take high doses of vitamin C. So there are lots of alternatives to eating fruit. But if you're healthy, you should eat the fruit so that you get the fiber and all the many trace elements that are in there that you wouldn't get through a targeted supplement.
What scared me about chemo is when you bring the treatment home, they give you a hazmat kit.
Oh my goodness.
And they tell you if there is a leak, you need to get rid of your mattress.
Wow.
So that is poison going into the body.
Yeah, it is really poison. And, you know, I always said that if I had cancer, I wouldn't do it. But I don't think you really know until you're facing the cancer and you know what kind it is and what the circumstances surrounding it. So I try not to be too judgmental about that. It's one option, but it is very toxic, and so you need to clean up your system afterwards. And one of the other things you can use is you can use digestive enzymes. I don't have this anywhere else, but a woman that I know had chemo radiation, and she had a dinner plate size tumor in the front of her abdomen where they couldn't radiate it and zap it all because of where it was. It was in front of her organs, and there's just no way to get there. So they got it down to a grapefruit size and then said, that's all we can do. So she heard about sound therapy, and she went to Germany where they were doing it, and she had that done for 3 weeks, and it eliminated the tumor. And then she went back home, and she had started exploring using enzymes for health. And so there are specific enzymes that you can take that if you take them on an empty stomach, instead of aiding digestion, they go throughout your system like little Pac-Men and clean up the toxins. And so, so she did that. And 5 years later, she was still very healthy. And she contacted some of the other people who had been at the treatment facility that she went to, and none of them were still living. So it's sometimes a combination of using things that determine the outcome, not just, there's no magic bullet. We know that. There are too many different causes. And so you have to sort of eliminate as many causes as you can figure out, and then clean up your system and boost the immune system so that it can function the way it should. One other thing, research makes it clear that cancer cells cannot survive in a low pH, alkaline environment or high oxygen environment. So a lot of the alternative treatments now, the most successful one I know of that's at Hippocrates Health Institute in West Palm Beach, Florida, is they do an all-vegan vegetarian diet that gets rid of the big acid-producing substances that are high in the American diet, such as red meat and a lot of grains. These are very acid-producing. They cause the body to break it down into acids, and so they are contributors to the epidemic of cancer in this country. What does this mean? What can cancer patients do? Well, exercise gets the oxygen flowing through you daily, and so exercise is so important to overall health, to preventing disease, and to getting well from disease. So, and it's highly underrated. People sort of take it for granted and don't do it. But then also cut back on your animal proteins or avoid them altogether, depending on what stage of cancer you have and where you are in treatment. And eliminate the grains. Try to go gluten-free. They may or may not be as acidic, but what you're doing is, it's estimated that 30% of Americans are actually allergic to gluten and don't know it, because we're just getting the diagnosis straightened around so that more people are being even tested for it. And to change your system, your whole system, from acid to alkaline, you really need to eat mostly vegetables and plant-based proteins. And I'm going to give you a list because not everybody knows how you get protein from plants. First on the list is lentils. These are a little flat brown bean, or sometimes they're red, or they come in various colors, but they are gluten-free and they're extremely high in protein. Then next on the list is hemp seed and chia seed. These have a lot of protein in them. They also have the good omega-3 fatty acids that are really crucial to a balanced body. And they are very low in the American diet. So if you can eat these sources of protein, then you're also increasing your intake of the omega-3 fats that fight depression. You may remember when I started taking fish oils and omega-3 fatty acids, my depression lifted in 48 hours. So it's pretty dramatic when your system is deficient of these. When you add it in, you can see pretty amazing turnarounds. The seeds that are recommended for protein are sunflower, sesame, flax, pumpkin. These are all very rich in minerals and protein as well. Quinoa is a gluten-free grain that's very high in protein and healthy. Spirulina is blue-green algae. And I've tried taking this, and if you decide to use it, and I think it's extremely healthy, which is why I tried it, it's really hard to find the way to eat it so that you can enjoy it. So at the end of this list, I'll give you the website that I got it from, and he has recipes on there. Nutritional yeast, again, this is high in the B vitamins, which are really important for health, and protein as well. Tree nuts, those are easy to eat, high in calories, minerals, healthy fats, and vitamin E. So they're a good source of protein. Beans, these are really good carbohydrates because the skin contains a lot of the nutrients. It's full of minerals, lots of fiber. If you don't digest them right, eat your beans with Beano, that little enzyme that you can get that helps digest them. And the other final thing on the list is organic tempeh, tofu, or soy. Soy has all of the essential amino acids of protein, so it's considered a complete protein. Tempeh is made from soy, but it's fermented, so it delivers good bacteria for improving your digestive health. So for more information and recipes, where I got this wonderful list is www.nutritionstripped.com.
The next question. A friend of mine has been anorexic for years and hospitalized several times. Nothing seems to help, including psych meds. What do you recommend?
The leading authority that I know of on holistic treatment of anorexia is Dr. James Greenblatt. He's an MD, and he wrote the book Answers to Anorexia, which is what I refer everybody to who has this condition. He was on one of my earlier shows, I think in 2012, and according to his research, the primary cause of anorexia is severe zinc deficiency, which when it's diagnosed and treated, helps correct the patient's unrealistic psychotic belief that they are overweight when in fact they are extremely malnourished. And the reason zinc is so important is it's found in every tissue and cell in the human body. It affects the biological processes ranging from cell growth to DNA synthesis. It's necessary for production of 200 different enzymes. And these enzymes in the digestive tract in particular all require zinc. You may have been told to take zinc if you're fighting a cold that boosts your immune system. It's also needed for sound sleep. It promotes wound healing, bone development, growth, and it regulates your genes, helping them to not turn on or off inappropriately. So let me tell you some of the things that can cause zinc depletion. One of the big causes is stress. All types of stress increase the body's need for zinc. So we're back to avoid stress when you can. Puberty is another big cause. A junk food diet that many kids eat often means there's insufficient fuel during the crucial brain development of adolescence. The brain's neuron growth and integration of emotional processes depends on adequate amounts of fats, proteins, key trace minerals, vitamins, and especially zinc and vitamin B12. B12 deficiency causes severe psychiatric symptoms, especially depression and anxiety. So that's another, the B vitamins I'll say stand for brain vitamins, but they do other things too. But back to zinc. There was a study that was done of 386 pair of twins and about their genetic predisposition for getting anorexia. And in kids who demonstrated an eating disorder before puberty at the age of 11, there was no genetic component. In those kids who had eating disorders at age 14 and 18, the role of the genetic factor was almost 50%. So pre-puberty to post-puberty is when anorexia symptoms are most likely to emerge. And this can be due to inherited factors or due to a diet that's deficient in zinc in that time frame. Another inherited error that I had that stripped my body of zinc that I've talked about many times, so I'll just cover it quickly, is when the body makes red blood hemoglobin, it produces a molecule called cryptopyrrole molecule. And in some people, it overproduces that molecule. Now, when the body overproduces anything, it usually just dumps the excess in the urine and it's disposed of. But in this particular instance, this molecule has a chemical affinity and attracts vitamin B6 and zinc. So they bond onto this molecule, and when it's dumped into the urine, that strips your body of much needed B6 and zinc. So all of my life, up until my age 40s, when I began searching for answers to my bipolar symptoms, I had been severely zinc deficient. So for me, it didn't cause anorexia, but it was very much involved in mania. And so zinc is a really crucial element. Vegans and vegetarians are at risk for zinc deficiency. Young anorexics report an aversion to foods high in protein, and so they don't eat red meat, fish, milk, and eggs. And so as a result, half of vegans and 21% of vegetarians take in less than 1/3 of the daily amount needed of zinc. So this deficiency so if you're a vegan or vegetarian, you not only need to take vitamin B12, which is primarily found in animal proteins, you also need to take supplemental zinc because you're not getting enough through the vegetarian sources. And it can be zinc is found in cereal grains, legumes, and nuts, but they are foods that are high in phytates. I don't know, I'm unfamiliar with that, but they're high in that, and that prevents the zinc from being absorbed. And so you don't absorb the zinc in your system even though it's present in those foods. 3 more things. Environmental toxins like BPA that's found in hard plastic bottles binds to zinc and prevents its absorption, so that's another way that this contributes to illness. Estrogen and birth control pills. Higher than normal estrogen hormones are associated with more eating disorder symptoms. So there's some relationship between high estrogen and eating disorders. And intense exercise. People that do extreme exercise are throwing off a lot of zinc in their sweat. And so you need to make sure that you're getting adequate amounts of zinc and protein if you're really exercising extreme. So don't try home or self-treatment for anorexia. Work with a knowledgeable holistic practitioner. They say urine testing for zinc is more reliable than blood, but Dr. Greenblatt prefers something he calls the zinc taste test that's described in his book. And when you're being treated under the direction of a knowledgeable practitioner, you can get well. You don't have to live with this or manage your anorexia.
We have a series of questions about energy medicine. How does my physical body relate to energy therapies?
Okay. There are lots of different kinds of energy medicines. So I'm going to recommend some books that give you some overviews of it, and then maybe talk about a few of the things specifically. Because when I was seeking for bipolar solutions, I decided to suspend my disbelief when I was doing research and try anything that I thought sounded like it might work or might have a bearing, and that had some scientific founding. And when I came to energy medicines, there was less science at that time. It was 20 years ago. There's a whole lot greater understanding of how they work now. But these books will give you some of the science that was in existence since then, or at that time, 20 years ago, and then since then, and will help you understand or reach an understanding, as I did, that there is a science to it. It's just a different kind of science, and we haven't quite switched into it's not Newtonian science. It's the one that's come since then that I can't imagine. I'm blocking on the name.
It'll come to you at 3 a.m.
No, it'll come to me sometime. Thank you. Anyhow, so let's go, and I want to recommend Vibrational Medicine by Richard Gerber. It's the #1 handbook for subtle energy therapies. It was the 3rd edition came out in 2001, and that's the most recent that I could find. But it may tell you more than you want to know, but it gave me a real understanding of how different energy therapies work, and the details about ancient as well as common treatments, including everything from acupuncture to laser puncture to flower essences to homeopathy, and to the use of crystals and vibrational healing, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. I keep this book in my library for reference because if something comes up that I've never heard of, I quickly go to it because it's probably there. Another book that I first read several years ago and still use personally is Donna Eden's Energy Medicine, Balancing Your Body's Energy for Optimal Health, Joy, and Vitality. It came out in 2008. This is a wonderful book. Whenever my energy is low, I refer to the drawings in this book that show me the meridian systems that run through the body that acupuncturists use to to open up and make sure it's not blocked and get your energy flowing. In this book, she has drawings that show this meridian system, and I learned and clear instructions on how you can, on your own, clear energy and speed up the energy that's flowing. Your hands carry electromagnetic energy, so you can influence the energy flow through your meridians by merely tracing them, by holding your hand a few inches away from your body and pushing the energy in the directions that her book instructs you. And I did some of this today before I came because I woke up at 4 this morning, and because of the full moon I didn't get back to sleep. And so I'm still feeling energetic and awake thanks to the exercises that are in this book. And the drawings are wonderful. It's very complete. It gives you exercises to move your energy in for all different, for healing purposes, for restoring your energy levels, for solving specific aches and pains. So there's a lot to this, and that's why I keep it in my library as a reference. This is a book I don't loan out
No,
because
you shouldn't.
I want to use it. And then the third book that's one of my all-time favorites is, and had a tremendous impact on me when it came to understanding how energy therapies and energy medicine works. It's called Hands of Light, A Guide to Healing Through the Human Energy Field. And it's by Barbara Brennan, who was a NASA scientist. But as a child, she could see auras and colors around people, around animals, around entities. And that was, she was seeing their auric energy field. Now we call it the aura. And so she graduated from working at NASA to doing energy medicine, and then wrote this book in 1987. And since then, she has established the Barbara Brennan School of Healing in Florida, which I consider the Harvard of energy medicine. She offers a 4-year professional studies program for aspiring energy healers. And when I look for an energy healer, I look for a Barbara Brennan trained healer. Because in the 4-year program, one of the things they do the first year is they have to heal themselves and clear their own energy field before they can be an effective healer. And so, and it's a very rigorous 4-year program. And so that's the person that I use locally who was on my show is Ellie Brown, and she's here in this area and has been doing energy healing for over, I think, 30 years. So that's who I chose to work with. From this book, I learned that the universal energy field that we all live in and the personal aura that surrounds us, you can feel and you can see if you know what to look for. And she tells you how to do that in this book. And you can feel it by, if you clap your hands or shuffle your hands like this, and then you put your hands together and you pay really close attention, you can feel a shift as you move your hands closer together. And so that's just one of the exercises that she has you do. So you begin to become aware of the energy that you give off, that surrounds you, that protects you, but that also can get damaged and then result in illness, both emotional and physical illnesses. The drawings that are in her book illustrate the 7 layers of this auric field, although she said when she wrote that book in 1987, she believes that there are up to 14 layers. This first 7 relate to the 7 chakras, but I believe that they now find that there's additional chakras that they weren't aware of, lesser chakras. So,
can you explain to someone who might not be familiar what a chakra is?
Yes, it's an energy vortex that takes energy into specific areas of the body and different organ systems. And so each chakra has a different color, and that's why you often see these colors that are used to represent the different chakras. And if you're working with crystals and trying to improve your energy, you select specific color stones to go on to the chakras to enhance the energy. And it's kind of a lot of fun to explore. Obviously, I've got several books on that too, because it's interesting, and it was sort of out there. You know, it wasn't at all conventional, but I found that I could feel a difference. When I worked with Ellie Brown for energy healing, she doesn't use the stones, but when she touched my arm to send energy into my body using the Barbara Brennan healing, hands-on healing, I had my eyes closed and I was laying on a mat or a bed, like a massage table. And I could see colors, different colors, brilliant, wonderful colors flash behind my eyes as she was working in my system. And I didn't interrupt her, but at the end of the session, I said to her, wow, I had a light display, all these different colors, I said. And she said, yes, that was when I go through the different layers of your aura, you'll see sometimes colors flash. And so it's something that if you feel, when people are sick, I tell them to use your intuition. If there's something you are drawn to and that you are really interested in, explore that and pursue it a little bit and see if it makes you feel better. And if it does, then keep doing it. Because everybody's solution and everybody's solution is unique, and everybody's illness has different causes. Even within the same family, you will have completely different causes of symptoms. So I suspend your disbelief, pursue what you feel attracted to, and study it. Don't just accept somebody's word for it, but try it, see how you feel, and explore sometimes the strange and the things that are on the border if you feel attracted to it.
How long does an energy session last?
Usually they're about 40 to 50 minutes. You lie fully clothed on a bed of some sort, usually a massage table or something portable. The practitioner will sit next to you, or they sometimes move slowly around the table as they work on different areas. Sometimes Ellie would be at my head or at my feet, holding my feet. Usually in later sessions, she usually sat beside and just touched my arm and channeled energy through my system from there. Energy healers are bringing energy universal energy from the universe in through their body and directing it through their hands. So that's generally how it's understood to work. And everyone has access to energy. It's just that, like anything else, you have to learn how to do this. So it takes study and it takes practice. And I prefer to use people who have practiced for several years. But if you have someone that's offering free sessions for nothing so that they can get the practice, then go for it.
Is it similar to Reiki?
Yes, it's very similar. And in fact, you could call them the same thing with different names and different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. Reiki really came out of the East, and hands-on healing has been, I don't know where it originated. In Europe, I understand it's called touch healing. So there are different names for the same thing, but energy healing really involves bringing universal energy in for a specific purpose and directing it through the hands of the practitioner or through the directed energy of the practitioner.
I'm very lucky to have a friend who is almost a Reiki master.
Good.
So
good.
That's free and that's wonderful. We have another question about energy work, mm-hmm. and then I have something I'd like to discuss if we still have time.
Okay.
Does energy work I'm doing affect anyone else besides me?
Yes. Have you ever noticed when someone walks into the room, sometimes their energy lifts the energy of everybody in the room? Mm-hmm. One of my previous bosses when I was working in the wine industry was a man by the name of Robert Mondavi. And he had such a buoyant, wonderful, positive energy. When he walked into the office, everybody had been like this, sort of slouched down working, and he just lit up the whole room and changed everybody's energy. So your energy can have a dramatic impact on everyone that you come in contact with. And one of the examples of this, when I was a single mom, I came home from work one day and I picked up my son from daycare, and he was young enough that he was still in one of these tabletop baby seats. And so I picked him up from the wonderful woman who took care of him for me and came home, but it was late in the day. My blood sugar was low. His blood sugar must have been. So I was in the kitchen, him on the table, trying to get him fed. And every spoonful of food I gave him, he blew all over me. And it only took about 3 of those for me to get very frustrated. And I burst into tears because I was so tired and so stressed and then frustrated on top of this. And he looked at me. He'd never seen me cry before. And his face started to cloud up and he was almost ready to cry. And I looked at him and I burst out laughing because he was mirroring my energy. And it was happening so quickly, I could immediately see what was going on. And it really taught me that energy, your energy, what you project, comes right back to you. And so, yes, your energy has a dramatic impact on the people around you.
And that's why they say to avoid negative people.
Right, because if you don't, you can seal your auric field so that people with negative energy can't impact your energy. But that's another show that I'll talk about. We have 5 more minutes on this one. So.
Okay, well, I'd like to bring up something,
Okay.
and we have other questions if we still
Okay.
have time, but I'd like to tell the viewers that do get SEC TV, if they have any friends that are not in the area, all of your shows are available on your Facebook page.
Oh, Holistic Healing with Gracelyn.
Yes.
Okay.
And if we have not answered all the questions, we can do that on that page as well.
Okay, so you had talked about doing a question of the week?
Yes.
Okay, so people can still submit questions through the Facebook
Into the
page.
message box, please.
Okay, to the message box in Facebook, and we'll do a question of the week.
I would love that. And brain lapse.
That's all right.
Oh, no, but this is important. If anyone is interested in ordering the 2 of your books, which I think are phenomenal, there's a Facebook page that is the title of your second book.
Okay, Who's Crazy Here?
And it has information on how to order it.
Okay, great.
So I highly recommend the books.
Okay, good. So
we have, areas, and I constantly check your page. So I try to get the questions to you as soon as I can.
okay, but we'll only be answering 1 a week. So,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I have other projects coming up, and so I said I'm happy to answer 1 a week, but I can't do more than that.
I originally was thinking 1 a month.
Oh, well, all right, we can do 1 a week.
Now, do we have time for any more questions?
We have a couple more. I think let's go on to the next question.
Why do we need help with energy?
The physics that I couldn't mention, that I couldn't bring up, is quantum physics. And this is about the waves. And quantum physics explains, and I know nothing about quantum physics except that it's the physics that we're now using regularly, and most of us don't know it, because it's how my computer communicates with my printer, my wireless printer. And I don't know how to explain that either. But quantum physics explains how you can send energy, healing energy, through the universe and have an impact on people in the same room with you, or people, you can send it by phone, you can send it by distance. So it's really an interesting healing mechanism that wasn't understood for a lot of years, but now because of the increase in understanding of quantum physics, it is being understood and studied.
What is a shaman?
A shaman is a medicine man or woman, and they I think they came out of Northern Europe, or I think in areas of Germany and some specific cultures. But they're basically trained in dealing with herbs and in healing, dealing with spiritual matters and spirit, shifting spirit and energy. And so they are a very ancient form of energy healer, but they also they work particularly where there's cultures where there's a lot of ritual involved in healing. And it's as much about mind as it is about body, the mental perception of how this works. So
And I would ask people out there that consider this far out to give it a chance and read about it and learn it.
Time is out, so we'll have to save the other questions for the website.
Definitely. That will be the first one.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we appreciate your questions. We appreciate you continuing to watch us all season, and I hope to see you on Facebook.